SmashFactor.
Ripping driver, going for it. Oh my goodness. How about that tee shot?
That is crazy how far that is.
Wow. John Daly, take a back seat, big fella. How about that drive?
That's an aggressive line. Man, that is beyond long.
Look at this. He's just driven the green. He has just driven the green.
I guess hello world, huh?
Welcome, everybody, to episode 74 of the SmashFactor 2019 3M Open. Back-to-back with brand new courses, tracks for the PGA Tour. I'm live from San Antonio, Texas, where it's like 110 degrees. And I'm here with my partner at BP Snow 11, Bucks. Bucks, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm live from Bethany Beach, Delaware. I don't know. I was thinking about this earlier. I'm positive I've done more pods on the road this year than I've done from home. It's just been bananas. But my family comes down to Bethany Beach every year. Oh, it's like 26 of us down here right now. And yeah, I'll be here for a few more days and then heading back home. But yeah, everything is great, man. Living the dream.
Nice. We got a lot to talk about tonight, obviously, and we got another new course to digest, and not as bad though, because we have some kind of history from another tour, but
yeah,
still different tees, different length. They've added 300 yards, so on and so on.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, though, how did the Rocket Mortgage Classic treat yourself?
For me personally, it was not great. I think I had like $4,000 in, a little more than $4,000 in, and got back 700 or so. Had a very bad Sunday. I had three of my five. So my best lineup was a 5 of 6. I had Matty Wolf missing the cut. But three of my 5 were actually over par on Sunday. And so you can't have the winning score 25 under and have that happen and have any chance of winning. The disappointing thing was on FanDuel, I had 4 of 6. I only played single bullet over there in like the 1500. I bubbled the 1500 with 4 of 6. And again, a couple guys over par. And so it could have been a decent week, like break even type week. But for me, honestly, once we got into midweek last week and found out that the scores could be much lower than anticipated because the rough was not as long and the greens were receptive, it was a confusing week for me because I had a pretty clear idea of who I wanted early in the week and then kind of got shaken up. So all in all, it was a good week just to see the new course and get involved. And it was a freaking hell of a week for the majority of our Gups Corner squad. So that made it, honestly, like Sunday, I could not care less. Like I was the happiest I've ever been losing a couple grand for sure. So it was pretty awesome. How about you?
Yeah, a similar path. I think I had, I don't even know how much I had, like 1,800 in. I got like 1,200 back on the main. Lost another 400 or 500, 600 in showdown. Bubbled every single showdown Sunday with Molinati's epic, terrible finish. But I mean, you're right there. You give yourself a chance. It was one of those hard weeks for me. So I was doing a lot of work last night I've changed my routine for the summer to, I have not changed the Tito's though on Monday nights.
And you're still mispronouncing names, and I love it.
I don't give a shit. I could give 2 shits. I try my best. That's all that matters. If I hear it differently, I can say it better, but I'm a visual person. But if I read it, I just say it how I read it. But anyways, it was because I never do this, right? And you and I talk about this all the time, and I never go back. I go back and recap the whole week and everything, but I never go back and go, what if I did this, if I did that?
Yeah.
And I had a shit ton of DJ, so that really doesn't matter because it's hard to tell what would have happened. Probably the brutal part for me was up until Wednesday, I was all Fowler, Matsu, instead of DJ. And then I started talking myself into it, knowing he was not great off the tee, but when we heard the shorter rough, blah, 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 I was like, all right, maybe this is kind of a DJ. He'll be all right. Even if he blows it off the tee, he'll be so far. Yeah. So I went, I moved all my shares from Fowler to DJ, which was just, so
that's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I had Neiman in 2 of my 3 main. So I normally do a 3 max build, sometimes a 5 max. And then I have like 20 to 40 in the 44, depending on how the week is.
Yeah.
And the one main that I didn't have Neiman in, I went Ryan Moore instead. And so that was a literal deal where I can go put Neiman in instead of Moore, and I win the 44 by 12 points. So it, woulda, shoulda, coulda, if and buts were Kenny's and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas type deal. But it was a little brutal because as we saw last night with the rest of the community, the core I had was there. Like I had I had Armour, Neiman, Redmond. I mean, I had everybody that the community kind of had, but one guy off. And so I really don't get too mad about it because it's just part of the deal.
The DJ swap is what would bother me because you're not like that. Like normally, and we preach that. Like if you like a guy, stick with him. Don't let noise kind of get in there. And we talked about it on the E9. Like, yes, like the concern for me is DJ has not been hitting his wedges as good as he was, and his putter's been way off. And obviously putting woes, that mental thing with a putter is really hard to overcome. I mean, we know he's going to hit it 330 and wedge it all day, but it's difficult to get over. So I'm surprised you kind of swapped everything.
Yeah, and I normally don't. Mainly because I kind of build everything late, so I don't kind of know where I'm fading. And I even told Brent, the guy that I talked to Tuesday night that was at the course, he was like, I don't know if I said it or he said it about the DJ whisperer, because I normally when I'm on DJ, it's one or two things. I really like him that week, or I had the 15% rule, which wasn't the case last week. We all knew he was going to be 30% or more. And I really wasn't even on him Tuesday. And I told him, I'm just going to kind of play it out and see. I kind of changed my model and everything after I talked to him a little bit and looked at a little more of the community stuff.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the good thing is it moved Redmond way up in my rankings, but it also made DJ a stronger number 1. And so I can't really.
Tough mix.
Yeah. Betting was brutal because I had Ryan Armour, who got first round leader in the non-Nate Lashley world, which that was a battle with 5 dimes. And I graded it as a loss, even though I think a majority of the community didn't get it paid out, which sucks. And you just kind of have to battle. And ultimately, I mean, it is what it is. They're offshore. They can make whatever decision they want. They can favor certain certain users or not, depending on. I mean, I don't know.
Can you detail what you're talking about briefly for the guys that don't know?
So, in a legalized betting world, and this happened to me 2 years ago in Vegas. I had a bet on Todd Gurley to be the rushing leader. Kareem Hunt won the title in the last week, but on that book, which was a U.S. legal book, Kareem Hunt won an option, and there was no field option, which is huge in this whole story. And so Gurley got paid out, and some people kind of called me out and said it. And I said, it's not a fake. Like you, in a legalized market, the books have to honor a winner. They can't have a no-win situation type deal. And so what happened here was Lashley didn't get added to the bets for first round leader, nor outrights. He did come on the live market, so some people picked up on that. And Lashley,
no field option,
and there was no field option on 5 dimes, which I had proof of that, which kind of helped me. I'm told that Bovada got Lashley in the first round leader field. I didn't bet him on Bovada I just kind of mixed it up between the two. But if they did, then it's a no brainer. But 5 dimes response back to me was, well, Armour didn't win. It's a no issue. And I was like, well, no, yeah, it is, because if Lashley wasn't an option and you don't have a field option, you have to grade a winner. Like they don't have to because they're offshore. So that's where it gets sticky. And there's people in the industry that know that. So ultimately it just, and then he wins the tournament. And so he wasn't on, I know he wasn't on 5 dimes. I don't know if he was on Bovada or not. For pre-tourney, he wasn't on the outright as well.
Yeah.
So then I get Redmond, who would have won the tournament at 225 to 1, but I didn't even battle that one because I know they would just say go F yourself. So it sucks having second place on first round leader and outright on the week. Ultimately, you got to have the winner, and so I see the other side of it. But if you're curious in a DK sportsbook or a Vegas sportsbook or a UK type deal, if they did not list a field option, they have to grade a winner. As far as I know, someone thinks differently. I know in Vegas they have to. I know a couple of the big guys up in the casinos, and I talk to them, and if they have to grade a winner based upon the options they have.
I gotcha.
Right, and so. I wish I was in UK because I could have got Redmond each way, probably about 62 to 1, which would have been nice. But all in all, I lost about 40% of my bankroll. We're still up on the year betting, of course, slightly up about 6, which is down for me year over year, but had some decent hits. Just got to keep grinding it out.
Yep.
Tough week on that end, and like you said, and I kind of get into this a little later, but a very epic Sunday evening for the community. WKJ, who we talked with all weekend, won the $44 with a single bullet, which is just, I thought I did something special last summer when a year ago to the day, I won the 100K with 6 bullets in the 44, but he goes out there and just throws one in. He had Hideki, Neiman, Strillman, Sabatini, Spawn, and Redmond, which is just like the GC crew squad, and wins it. Not easily, but kind of easily. Second place in the 44 was a GC member. Chris Gasboat 1 is his Slack name. I think is Chris Ferris is his Twitter name. So that was awesome. St. Louis Cardinals again, which was kind of weird because Justin was a guy that I battled with a year ago today at the Quicken Loans.
Exact same event.
Exact same one. A different tournament, but same week. And so he's probably tired of us, but a great guy. I've talked to him, a little bit. And obviously all the guys at Roto Grinders are great guys with us. Noto, I talk with quite a bit, and great guys over there, and much respect to all of them. I just so we don't keep this pod like 6 hours tonight, I'm just going to list some of the big ones. We've had tweets and everything, and that's part of my final thoughts as well. But some of the big ones, which are impressive to me, is WK only had $116 and he wins 6 figures. Gasboat had $300 in, wins 41,000. Mike Cahodes, I probably fucked that up $2. Oh dang, I can't say this on this pod. Sorry, 20,000. I promise you, my kids out there watching me right now. And I gotta go put money in the swear jar.
You better tell Daddy that's like $100.
He's on me like white on rice. He's PK 0482 15K. Shockingly, WK he either didn't play the PME or he didn't have the best, but S. Russum of GK or GC follower won the PME at 5K. I know WK won the listener league, obviously. Rumham $230 into 4,500. Jenny Wop 60 into 6,500. Chucky T 79 245 into 3,000. And then Familio Premio, who's our boy inside, that dude's awesome. $200 into 1K, and many others. Some of the regulars are all in there. Yeah. All in. Screenshots that we got tagged in or posted. GC community had over $300,000 in winnings yesterday. So
insane.
Tremendous day for the community. We're proud. We love it. But as of 9:00 last night, I was on to the next week, and I told the guys, you got to be the same way. It's not guaranteed. It's not, it's just on to the next one. Hopefully the bankroll management and everything we preach and teach holds true with those guys. And a lot of them reached out to me and asked me personal questions. And that's what we're all about, helping them out and get them on to the next level. I'm going to do sponsors and affiliates right before we go check out the course preview with Bucks. Awesome news, finally. Kind of came out of nowhere. I wish we could have talked about it last week on the pod, but Thrive Fantasy now has PGA. I dabbled in it myself. I swept the board. So it was my only positive for the week.
See, you did something.
Yeah. They small contest right now, which is fine. It's a different deal. They have the thing I like about them is they have weaknesses right now in their app, but they're open to hearing suggestions. How do we make it better? What's bugging you guys, especially the amount of people we got referral to them. If we have people that are struggling, they'll reach out to us and say, here's how we fixed it, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But right now, so they're going to have it for the rest of the PGA season. Deposit $20, you get $10 free, no rollover, no, you got to play 800 to get it back. You deposit it, you play it. As soon as you win, the money's yours. 100% guaranteed. I promise you that. So try it out. $20, try it out. It's worth it. Fanshare Sports, 20% off when you use the code GUP. Get the pro advantage that we use. One of the top ownership companies in the industry. Just like everyone else, upgraded their content, their site. They're doing good things over there. Good original partner of ours. The original partner of ours, Fantasy National Golf Club, fantasynational.com. Use the code. Well, actually, just go to the link on our website, the affiliates page, which all of these are on our website. You get 20% off, which is exclusive to very few in the community. Moose and Mayo will be at the 3M Open Friday. So if you want to check them out or say hi or buy them a drink, go do that. Great couple of guys. I can't wait to meet Mayo in person one day, but our exchanges have been awesome. Rate and review us on iTunes, Instagram, Facebook, or subscribe on YouTube and Twitch, which hopefully you're watching on now. It'll benefit you because in a couple weeks for the Open Championship, we're going to give away free entries to the 2019 Super 7, Survivor Pool, GC Fantasy Football Leagues. We have you covered for all the football contests for 2019. As always, free rake. It's 100% on us. We're just doing it to help build the brand, build the community and get you guys some exposure to what we bring. So we provide that for free. So it does us a lot. If you'll go do all those things, it'll get you an entry. So if you do all 5 of those, that's 5 entries into a chance to win those pools. This is an important announcement from JB. We did inventory after the second quarter ended last night. We have the U.S. Open shirts, limited supply left, probably 75 or less. The first 300 sold out immediately. Now through Sunday, you get free shipping with any order, even the combo pack. Code is last chance. So we have less than 100 total shirts left of the 2 first editions we put out there. Get on there, buy a shirt, helps us out, obviously. Now you get them free, shipped anywhere in the world. Just use that code and the shipping will come out free. JB's probably killing me, but we can't really control it. We'll just ship it there. Bucks, I know it's always a challenge for you when we have a new course. Run us down what's the important good, bad, whatever we got to know this week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I love new courses. This is a little bit different. So last week, new course, completely new, like had no past history whatsoever. This week, we are at a new course for the PGA Tour, but it's a pretty regular stop on the Champions Tour. So we have an semblance of how the course has played previously. But we are in Minnesota, TPC Twin Cities. It is a par 71. So the Champions Tour plays this as a par 72. They're playing it as a par 71, and they bumped it back about 300 yards. It's going to play just over 7,400 yards. Fairways, greens are all bent grass. Green sizes are 6,300 square feet, which is about tour average. The last few weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, we've had fairly small greens. So this week we're seeing some depth, some width to these greens. Green speeds are typically around a 12 fairway width. And this is a big one this week. 40 yards wide on average, 40 plus yards wide on average. There are some holes where the landing zones will be 60 yards wide. And so although it's 7,400 yards at a par 71, which is pretty long, from what I'm seeing, the fairways are super wide. It's a very, very gettable golf course. You're going to see a lot of guys just hammering driver. Rough on the senior tour wasn't that big of an issue. It's 2.5 inches thick. I think with it being a tour event, a PGA Tour event, they're going to try to make it a little more difficult. So they'll grow it up a little bit here and there. The only thing you got to keep in mind is the weather looks iffy. Every single day this week, pretty much, there's a chance of storms. And so we could see rain on almost every single day, which should soften up the course, puts even more priority on the guys that can murder the ball. And the greens should be super, super receptive. On the Champions Tour, this has been regularly one of the most gettable golf courses, ranking first or second in total birdies like each year over the last 5 years, something like that. And so overall, this is a gettable golf course designed by Arnold Palmer with some help from Tom Lehman, but very, very gettable golf course. I'm interested to see the way that's going to play compared to the Champions Tour. I've been looking at some videos from the Champions Tour, some replays. If you want to dive a little bit deeper, go on and look at the breakdown. But overall, I feel this is going to be a pretty low scoring event, similar to last week. There is a ton of water on this golf course. 15 holes, water comes into play. But again, with the fairways that wide, it technically comes into play, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. So all in all, very gettable golf course, some low scores coming. I'm excited to see how it plays.
So, I start my week with your article. Last week I don't want to say I picked up on the Donna Ross deal, but I did look at that because we had nothing to go by. This week, obviously an Arnold Palmer / there was someone you mentioned in the article. Helped him. Is there anything on that angle you use, or do you go more towards, and I'll fuck this word up too. Gosh, dang it. Correlatory courses, or I call it comparative courses because I'm
corollary.
I use simple words. Yeah. So do you use, you wouldn't believe I have an MBA, but I'm all numbers, but which way do you angle? Do you look more at the design, or do you look more at the courses that similar fit what this course has?
I'm looking at courses that have similar width fairways and similar greens. There's not too many Arnold Palmer golf courses out there that we have like statistics on from a tour Champions Tour perspective. And so really it's about finding those courses that have a similar length and yardage, because if it has a similar length and yardage and the fairways are fairly wide, then that they're going to be hitting the majority of the same clubs off the tee. At this course, it's going to be driver freaking everywhere. And then looking at the greens and honestly what grass it is and how big they are is a big consideration too, because you can get a course, let's just say you have a course that has 50-yard wide fairways, but they have 3,000 square foot greens like Pebble.
Right.
It changes your thinking. It might not be a barrage of birdies all day. But for me, I'm looking at the fairway width, the green sizes. I'm looking at now, like the Champions Tour, I'm looking at how low they've gone on this golf course and trying to find similar courses to that. I mean, there's not too many on tour, I don't think, that fit this mold. This is one of the wider fairways we'll see all year. And because of that, the sizes of the greens and how receptive they'll be because of the rain, this is kind of one where it's tough to pick a few corollary courses.
Right. And so I just wrapped up my model, right before I left, after I got here a few minutes ago, but that's how I angled it. Was I always try to put myself, and we talk about this, in the chats, that I'm trying to put myself on how are they going to attack this course and how do they attack courses. So meaning if I got a guy that, and Mike Miller posted about this earlier, watching guys play gives you an advantage because you can tell a guy's is comfortable when he doesn't have to worry about houses to the left or 3-inch, 4-inch rough or water all over the place. If they know, all right, if I just hit my shot, like I'm going to be somewhere out there, and then my my approach game is money. I've heard, I hadn't listened to much today at all, I got to admit, and I normally don't on Mondays, but I don't really see the water being that much of a play, but I kind of hear like it may be, and I'm like, well, on this course, these guys with 40-yard fair. I mean, if you're not hitting a 40-yard, if your guy's not hitting a 40-yard fairway, then he wasn't the right play to begin with. So we're already off the wrong, boat. But so I mean, I'm really keying in on length will help, and then guys that aren't afraid to go long with no fear in play. So we'll get to Brooks in a minute, but think of Byron Nelson, right? Pretty long-ish, but there's absolutely no trouble anywhere. So if you blow it, very rarely, there's like 2 or 3 holes you can get in trouble in. The only difference is I agree with you that I think it'll be low scoring. And so like you can afford a double, but we saw with DJ last week, you get too many of them and it's hard to catch back up and make the cut. And so that's kind of, and I got a little thoughts on that in a little bit. We'll get into that in just a second. As you said, there looks like to be weather concerns almost every day. And the waves I looked at right now as of Monday night, there's no advantage because it's hit or miss showers. Yeah. Obviously, Moose is there. He lives there. I think he said he's an hour away when I talked to him earlier. Maybe, follow – if you're not following him, I don't know why. But, I'm sure he'll give us updates, and I'll reach out as well before we go Wednesday night live. I think we got a guy in the chat that's going to be there for the Pro-Am, so we'll get some updates. Sure. So before we get into contest selection, what stats are you looking at this week?
Dude, for this week, with it being truly a new course on tour, the only thing that I can go off is what the Champions Tour saw versus how I believe the course is setting up. And I believe that it's going to be similar to last week where you got a couple guys, well, not a couple, but I think we'll have a couple guys in the 20s this week, 20 under range. And I think the cut's going to be a super, super low number, like -4, something like that. So for me, this week, I'm doing it a little different. Most weeks I'm keying in on like approach and 150 to 175 and putting outside 10 feet or inside 10 feet, something like that. This week I am taking all of the scoring categories and just blending them all together. And so I'm taking opportunities gained, birdies are better, birdies. I'm taking DK points. I'm taking driving distance because I do think that's a big advantage because everybody's going to be hitting driver here. And so I want guys that are coming into these receptive greens with a shorter club. But you have to have the guys that are good in those ranges. But yeah, it's for me, it's all going to be about those scoring metrics rather than like specific yardages or iron play, that kind of thing. I want guys with tons of opportunities to make birdies. And then one of my last stat categories is bogey avoidance because there are certain guys out there, and Piercy used to be one of these guys where he could have 9 birdies in a round and 6 bogeys, and it's all for naught. Yes, it's great for DK scoring, but like realistically, he's not going to win an event doing that here.
No, and I think that's a great point. I made a note of that when I saw your article earlier was that – so I'm not looking at bogey avoidance at all, and it's because I'm looking at different statistics, but it's not a bad thing or a wrong thing. It's that you're weighing X amount so heavily that if you don't look at that, you may get swayed too far the wrong way. And so
I'll be thrown on like Lahiri, as my top 10 guy, and he shouldn't be my top 10 guy, but he makes a shit ton of birdies. Sorry, I'll put money in the swear jar too. Yeah. But I mean, he makes a ton of birdies, and maybe I still will play him for $6,500, but realistically, he's not going to be a top 10 guy for me in my rankings because he makes a ton of bogeys too.
Correct. And not that I'm off the score. I think the scoring is very important, and I have some of that in my model. I still have ball striking and approach. I agree with you on the driving distance. I think if Bubba was here this week, this may be a Bubba. Like I think he could have played this instead of last week and fared much better. Greens and red gained, obviously, I think matters. Still going to come down to a hot putter. The only thing I'm looking at putting wise this week is splits because this is bent, true Brent, from everything I've read, what you wrote and others. Yeah. And that makes a difference, right? And so
for sure,
there's no POA, so I will look at the splits on guys that pop, like a Jason Day, a Keegan Bradley, Danny Lee, Charlie Hoffman. All those guys are their splits on Ben are way better than the others. And so they move up in the model this week. Doesn't mean I'm on them for sure, but I definitely want to look at it. Contest selection real quick before we get into the Dirty Dozen. Same as last week, about 150 players, plus minus 2 or 3. We'll see if anybody drops. Top 70 in ties. MDF is in effect.
Yep.
Similar pots as last week, 100K, 44, 100K in the 444, 100K in the $5. Royal Rumble satellites are going to be up all the way up until the British Open, obviously, and the Fantasy Golf World Championship. Qs are around, I think, 140 out of 200. So you got probably 3 or 4 more weeks to get qualified for that if that's one of your goals of the year. I may jump on them. I'm kind of getting a little FOMO. I think me, you, and Tambo combined had like 6 or 7 last year, and
it's such a bad event.
It is. It's terrible EV, but obviously last year getting on them, I was happy, but I wish it was live. I wish there wasn't rake upon rake to get into the rake.
Oh, dude, you're getting raked twice.
Yeah,
it's insane.
There's a lot there that bugs me about it, but maybe I know Mayo's in our camp, so he's higher up in DK world that maybe we can get some love for 2020. But I do have a little FOMO, so I may throw it. Actually, where I may do it because I saw it last week is they're starting to throw them in the showdowns more, and that's a more optimal approach for me because I have real life data, especially a week like this because I had no real life data beforehand, and now I do, so I may jump in them.
That's important. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah,
showdown this week I think could be really, really important. Like if you're nervous about this week and how the course is going to play, hold it. Wait for the weekend. Wait for showdown because you're going to see a couple days of how the course is playing. You're going to be able to key in on some certain guys. You'll be much better prepared and feel better about yourself than just throwing it in pre-tournament. Whereas like this week, like I don't really care. I'm going to play my same like I'll probably have 4 lineups, but I'll probably play 4 lineups in the 444, the 44, the 5, throw them all in there. But I will be playing showdown this week because I do think there's an edge to be able to take what's happened over the first couple of days, translate that in to how the course will play over the weekend and which players then fit that mold.
Absolutely. No, yeah, you're more comfortable. Obviously we have all the showdown resources and the Slack's great for the showdown. So good banter in there on showdown slates. And last week, a lot of guys made their week by showdown. I was close. Like with 3 holes left, I had doubled up my main slate. And I was like, oh, sweet. And then all of a sudden it just went to hell in a handbasket. But Dirty Dozen, a little tough this week.
It is kind of tough this week.
9K and above. 3 picks, 7,600 to 8,900, 3 picks, 7,500 or less, 3 picks. And then we'll wrap it up with 3 picks, a flop, a fade, and a sleeper. And then we'll go rapid fire real quick, me and him back and forth. And then probably a little longer round table because obviously new format, 2 guys. We may miss some. So we want to make sure we hit on those for all the guys out there listening. 9K or above. Start us off there. Where I think it's a little different than last week. Last week, I think it was you could go stars and scrub and take your chances.
Dude, this week is so hard up top because you got guys like Hovland been playing great. Tony Finau, who seems to fit this course, hadn't been playing good though, so is at a cheaper price. You got Neiman, who's been fire. Sabatini, who's been fire, but I think he's overpriced here. Then you got guys like Patty Reed, who I love on courses like this where he doesn't have to worry too much about his driver, and he's been playing well. He's trending in the right direction. You got Bryson, who I would have picked to win last week. He would have won last week. I think his value at a golf course like this is slightly diminished, but I think he's going to win sometime soon. Then you got Jason Day. Love Jason Day. He's my pick this week. So he's going to be one of my 3. And then you got Matsuyama and Koepka above. I mean, literally all of those guys you can make a case for. And so it's not like, you have 2 or 3 guys that you have to target it on. Every single person in this 9K range you can make a case for. It's all about how you're going to construct your lineup and how weird down low you want to get. Because that's the hard part. Because down low, there are some interesting options that I don't know if you can legitimately make a comfortable lineup. my 3 in this range are going to be Patty Reed, Jason Day, and Brooks Koepka. I am not a Brooks Koepka fan, but this is a course he is going to hit driver everywhere. And this is a course where he's going to be super comfortable. And we know that he can make birdies in waves. I mean, literally in DK points, opportunities gained, birdies are better gained, bogey avoidance, strokes gained overall. He's in the top 2 in all of those categories. And not just for like right now, but like last 100 rounds first, last 50 rounds first, last 24 rounds first, last 9 rounds ninth, last 8 rounds fourth. I mean, the guy is just a model of consistency. And I can say the same thing for Day. I can say the same thing for Reed. Reed's worst range has been his last 100 rounds, where he was 16th in all those categories I mentioned. In the last 3 categories, last 12 rounds, 8 rounds, 4 rounds, he's no worse than third. So Patty Reed's trending in the right direction as well, and I love him this week.
Yeah, so I like Reed. I figured you would say Reed. I almost knew you were going to say Day.
Well, you should know I'm going to say Day. Yeah. Reed, I'm not a fan of. Like, I don't like him, but I think he's trending right.
Yeah, and he plays that right to left, which I've heard. I think even last night you guys were talking about that's the favored. I think it was OG that was talking about that's the favorite tee shot off this course from his 1979 notes. But that's why we love him. Literally, he literally has a notebook of every tour, and he has of
every year of every event.
and like someone asked something about the tee shot, and within 3 seconds, OG chimed in. He was like, "Well, it's a right to left course based on my notes from 17 years ago." And so I don't question him, but just to switch it up a little. So Brooks for me is a DJ this week. If the community is going to bash him and he's going to be under 15%, autoplay. I'm automatically going to play him. Like, don't even ask me Wednesday night. If he's under 15% projected, I'm playing.
He is so much higher than everybody else price-wise. I kind of feel like he's going to get skipped over, which is the reason why I'm potentially going to be on him. But if I think he's going to be super popular, I have no problem pivoting to somebody else.
Agree, 100%. If he even flirts 16, 17, 20%, I'll fade all day, don't care. But if everybody's going to be off him, like WC Mexico, the only time I've actually won this year, anything significant on DJ, I'll play Brooks and take my chance. He's shown that he likes to be in good form going into the majors. He played the Byron Nelson right before PGA, got second with a bad Sunday, really. He really could have took it apart if he wanted. But and for me, really, he doesn't even rank out number 1, which kind of shocked me. And it's a guy I'll be on this week, and I assume, especially our boy Tambo, I ain't even heard. He's probably he didn't record it yet. He may be listening to me now, so he'll probably back up on it. But I will hear tonight. I'm not playing a Matsu at 11-1. He only T20s and T5s, and that doesn't blah 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 blah. Which I hope he does, because they have a great following, and that puts Matsu even way down on the list for me. But if Matsu can get under the radar or be kind of everybody goes DJ or Day, Brooks or Day, and then moves on, Matsu's my number 1 ranked, and it's really not even close. Doc Redman's number 2, which we'll get to in a second, but he's limited results, so I kind of don't even look at that. But I'll go Matsu. I love Matsu again. He's going to win on tour again. 11-1 gives me an $800 break from Brooks. I don't think he's going to be as high as he was last week, but could surprise me. We'll see. But I don't mind going overweight there if I need to. Hovland, I'm on, and I had an exchange with our good buddy Matt Wiley last night. I want to give him credit to say he nailed the $9,100 price mark. I don't know if he even listens to our pod, but we talk all the time. But I was if he didn't nail it, I told him I hope it's 9,100. Because no one will play Victor at 9,100, right? They're going to be off of him. And then the next guy I knew would be high, and I don't see anybody clicking buttons when it comes to Neiman at 9,300. Everybody's going to chase off of Neiman and Hovland, especially when you got Jason Duffner at 77. Blah blah blah. I'll play those guys. I'm tired of questioning my rankings, and it always proves me wrong. So I'm just going to trust them. I love those guys. The rankings about tonight, everybody will see that. But the Brooks was kind of the question mark there to go, hey, if you're going to give me 15% or less, auto play for me, auto play all day. I'll lead off 7,600 to 8,900.
Yeah.
I don't think I mind going back to Lashley.
Man, that was a hard one for me because obviously he's popping like last 4 rounds, but he's been popping for weeks and weeks. And so, man, I have such a hard time playing him after that win. But yeah, dude, the dude's been balling out, and it's not like he's going to get nervous off the tee and just blow it everywhere. He's still going to hit fairways. Like,
dude hit fairways all day yesterday. Like that's
I know, yeah.
And it sucked. I think that's what kind of got Wiley and me going back and forth was I don't know. I don't follow who he plays per se, other than what I see. But I know we've been on Lashley for a while.
Forever. He's been my value pick like 4 times this year.
Yeah, so for him to fall off where we couldn't play him in DK, it was kind of, and everybody's probably saying that last night, blah blah blah. But
I wouldn't have played him last week. So
I don't know if I would have or wouldn't have. It depended on how he came in the model. But if he was 6,500 last week, I damn sure would have had a share or two of them in a 40 bill. But I don't know. It's weird because you get that emotional victory with the family story and all that. Does it just drain him, or does he just roll on in? I think if he doesn't withdraw, because he's just got 2 years, the Masters, the Brit. I mean, he's in, right? If he had any resentment, I think he would just say, "I'm gonna take this week off and get ready for a major now that I got." But we'll see, right? I agree with you that it's a question mark. But if he's going to be like 5% and at 8,300 is a huge boost for him in price, I don't mind him at all. Duffner, you've been on for a while. I'm finally on board with him.
What?
He missed the cut, which is a bounce back spot for me. He's number 13 in my stats, 16 in form, 11 in course comp, 6 in rolling stats. The only thing that worries me is he's one of my worst guys in the field putting on bent. And so, we could sit up here and talk about chalk after chalk after chalk. And so I'm just trying to give people a little bit different. So it's a one narrative there of can he putt this week? And so he's in my radar, especially because he burned like literally on the line -4, burned a lot of people last week. Yeah. I don't know if you had him or not, but I know several in the community he burned on the number at -4.
Yes.
Tway was my Duffner last week. Tway burned me at -4 and hurt. Next guy I'm going to go to who I hate. We have a hate relationship. But Keegan, only because this is his best split. He loves bent, right? So his stats are his stats. Are always the same every week. He's going to be great. He's going to put the ball in play. He's not really going to get in trouble here. So if he really loves putting on bent and he's motivated this week, which he's kind of a fiery guy. He got a T2 at the Travelers. I'll go to Keegan at 8,800. Give me your 3 that pop off the Monday night charts.
So you had Keegan, Duffner, and who?
Lashley.
Okay. So I'm going like 180 from you. Like you got Keegan and Duffner who like I'm thinking like I want these guys at Pebble. I want these guys at tight golf courses because they drive the ball well. Like that'll give them an advantage. I'm going full on. Give me the guys that struggle off the tee a little bit but can make birdies. So I'm starting with Danny Lee at 7,600. Guy has a ton of game, but he has a lot of confidence issues with that driver. And with this golf course being so wide, I'm hoping he gets more comfortable off the tee and makes a lot of opportunities. Second guy is like a guy that I'm going to laugh saying, but JJ Spawn, nice. 7,800. And a guy, again, can be a little wild off the tee, but when he gets hot, he gets real hot. So as long as he can keep it in play off the tee and avoid those big numbers, I think JJ has a spot to compete as well. Last guy, and there's others I like, but last guy I'll play, and it's a true dart because he hasn't been informed, and it's largely because of the driver or off the tee is Phil Mickelson. Phil in a fairway with irons, wedges. I think his upside for 8,500, like $8,500, he has like Patty Reed, Jason Day upside, I think, this week. So I'll be playing a bunch of Phil Mickelson as well, just because I think he's going to find way more fairways than he's used to and give himself opportunities.
I don't mind that narrative. And obviously we're not on the same page. That's not necessarily ideal, but
well, one of us is going to win. Like,
right.
It's going to be awesome.
I will be honest that as of right now, because of I'm way early in my process, but I love a lot of guys under 7,500. And so that what's normally a hot zone, 76 to 89, like I may not have I could have 5%, the three guys I just listed.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys under 76 that are solid.
Yeah, that I like just as equal. And so if it can let me build Hovland, Neiman, Matsu, Brooks, and then drop down and just smorgasbord all those deals and just say F the middle range, I don't mind doing that this week because I like really up high and I like really down low, fairly decent.
Yeah.
So to get that, kick us off 7,500 or less. Who are three you like?
Yeah. So I'm going to keep it pretty high up here in this range. I assume you're going to talk about Redmond again, but the three guys that I'm going to mention that I really like, man, there are a lot of guys here I do like, but Sam Burns, $7,300. He's no worse than 27th in any rolling stat category over the last 100 rounds. And when you look at like his last 24 or last 12, the dude murders the ball. He scores a ton of DK points, and he's middle of the road in bogey avoidance. So I think that his birdies will by far outweigh his bogey opportunities. I think Sam Burns is a guy here that can play really well. Keith Mitchell, another guy I really, really like for this golf course. Murders the ball off the tee, should give himself a ton of opportunities. So I do like Keith. And the last guy I'll mention who is pretty damn good in every category I look at, and when you look at like his last 24, 12, 8, 4 rounds, Sepp Straka is rolling pretty deep. Like he got a little popular last week, but still that's a name. Like when you see Cam Champ, Danny Lee, Jimmy Walker, Sung Kang, Keith Mitchell right there, Luke List, Siwoo, Sepp Straka is not the guy that people are going to gravitate to.
Well, so that's my number one.
Boom.
Yep.
We're together. Yeah. Start our build that way.
Yep. I love Straka. I'm going to bet him. That's the free bet of the week on the pod, 100 to 1. Lock it in. Driving distance, he's top 35. He's got a full 24 rounds now in my model. Number 5 overall in stats. Number 1 greens and red gain. I don't lock button Benny, but I'm like 7,500. I'm all in on Straka this week. Love him. Right back on Mackenzie Hughes this week. Probably some felt they let him down Sunday, but pre-tournament, if you'd got a T21 out of him, you'd have been tickled pink. So I'm his last 4 tournaments is T8, T14, T51, and T21. Number 10 in recent form for me there. Stats are just average, so there's a little concern. 7,400 though, I don't mind having a few shares. I assume he'll be kind of lower owned. Then last is Jonas Blix for me. A 5th at what was that? Charles Schwab was that? Yeah. 5th at Charles Schwab, T44th RBC. He missed a cut at Travelers, and pretty solid T29 last week. 37th in my stats, 7,200. I really, again, I'll think he'll be 4 or 5% ish, somewhere in that range. 125 to 1 doesn't scare me either on the betting side, so I kind of like that. So those are my 3. I'll kick us off on rapid fire. So why don't you tell me your flop, fade, and sleeper? If you're new to the pod, flop is it's any price. It doesn't matter. It's just who won't return value this week. Our fade is you could fade because of ownership, course design, course fit, recent form, just whatever. And then a sleeper under 6,900. Who do you got?
Yeah, so my flop is going to be Ryan Moore. I think he's overpriced, and I don't think his game suits a golf course like this. He's short off the tee, solid iron player. I just don't think he's going to have the firepower this week to keep up when he is 30 yards behind a lot of these guys.
Who was that?
Ryan Moore.
Okay, yep.
Charles Howell is going to be a guy that I fade. I've heard a few people mention his name today, but I don't honestly know why. He's been playing he played great earlier in the year, but he's been playing poorly right now. I understand that his driver has been a little off, as well as like his iron game, but he has just been playing really, really bad. For $8,400. I just can't touch him or even come close to him. The guy down low under 66 that I will be playing, and there are a couple guys I was looking at down here, but I'll give two real quick. One is the guy I mentioned earlier, Anirban Lahiri. Guy makes a ton of birdies. He is super risky play, but makes a ton of birdies. You just need to avoid the big numbers. The other guy is right next to him, and that's Josh Teeter. He was a guy I talked about last week. I think he's due for some big things. And when you look at like his stat categories, like all of them, all the strokes gained, DK points, opportunities, he's middle of the road, like top 50 for a lot of them. And for $6,500, that's pure value.
Yeah. So again, we're a lot alike on this one. My flop was CH3. I think the one thing I am keying on this week is guys that I just don't see being able to get low. Even if you're cheap, if you can't, and maybe it's a mentality deal also. I mean, if a guy shows up and he knows he has to get to 1820, I mean, you start off bad or you're behind the eight ball, you're like, God, I'm not
play
gonna
catch up.
Yeah, I'm not going to make it. My fade, I had more, but I'll give a second one that, since you said more, is which we talked about earlier. If Brooks is going to be 20% higher, I'm fading just because of ownership. I'll build elsewhere and hope it works out. My sleeper was Teeter, since you said him as well. I don't
Burns Teeter. That's a core. Burns Teeter.
Yeah, I don't mind. There's two guys I don't mind. One is Sucker. I think a lot of guys will be like, all right, so he finished second and then he missed a cut. So I think he may fall off the map, but he's got 11 rounds in my model and he's second in stats in those 11 rounds, which are all recent, right? Because he's just fairly played.
Yeah.
So getting him at 6,800. I do have a deep sleeper I'm going to deep dive on tomorrow that could be the Redmond of the week. I'll list him Wednesday night as usual, but there's a guy that currently in my current model has the biggest plus minus of the year that I've seen. So stay tuned for that. But those are the two that I kind of like as sleepers for now. Rapid fire.
Let's do it.
Matsu or Day?
Day.
I'm Matsu, obviously. Neiman and a guy we haven't mentioned yet, shockingly. There's two guys we haven't mentioned that I think will be on roundtable, but Finau or Neiman?
Super hard for me. I'm going to go Finau.
Hovland or Sungjae?
Sungjae.
I'm Hovland, and I was Neiman if they didn't hear it. Hovland was mine. Lashley or Piercy, a guy you mentioned earlier?
Piercy.
Real close on this one right now. I lean Lashley. Duffner or Hoffman?
Neither. Hoffman, though, if I had to pick one.
Yeah, I'm Duffner. I don't mind Hoffman this week, especially. So he's missed 3 cuts in a row, which is it's not like him, but it could have a good bounce back week. Champ or Gooch, which is really hard for me.
Yeah, I would go, and we talked about on the E9 last week about Champ and his upside. I think Champ on a golf course like this, I would go Champ. I think he has top 15, top 10 upside just because of his length.
Yeah, I was shocked that he only moved up to 7,500. So
Yeah.
he's a little down in my rank.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I suspect by Wednesday, once I do my deep dive, he'll rankings and I'll be playing him. I'll play him at 7,500 because you saw the birdie. I mean, to your point, like he's a bomber. He made like 6 birdies and
yes, he shot 28.
He potentially obviously showed Sunday where he can equally be as bad, but
yeah,
he still. I had guys kind of not bitching, but they were kind of, man, Champ's letting us down. I was like, what? Pre-tournament, if you had Champ, top whatever he finished, top 40.
I hear what they're saying.
Yeah. By the time you get there, you want him to finish the deal. Trust me, I did too. I had him outright, along with I know Mayo and Feinberg did, but hindsight overall, he did. Last one, a threesome: Wolf, Redmond, or Siwoo.
Super hard. I would go Wolf. He's a pure scorer. I think he has a ton of upside this week. Super hard not to say Doc. He's been playing great, but I'm going to go Wolf.
So I will play both Wolf and Doc. I hope Wolf stays way under the radar because of Hovland, but a track where this kid will show up and can score with the best of them is this track. And so I'll play both Hovland and Wolf, and I'll play Doc because I think Doc's. So if you don't know him, look him up. Clemson guy, a great scorer as he showed last week. Like he's got the pedigree. He just kind of went way under the radar because when he was coming out, like he beat Doug Gim. Doug, is that right? Gim.
Gim.
Yeah, beat Doug Gim in a playoff. In college, great talent. Followed him so far in his career. I like him a lot. I know others in the industry have, but I've liked him a lot. That's what got me on him last week. Roundtable roundup. I'll kick it off on guys that the 2 guys top of my list that we hadn't mentioned at all. There's really like 3 or 4, but the first 2 is DeChambeau and Finau. Are you anywhere on them? Are you close?
Those are actually the only 2 that I was gonna have. So I'm glad you mentioned them. Finau,
just way off the radar.
Yeah, he's he's one of those guys that I think gets back to that perpetual top 10 atmosphere. But he's been struggling right now, and it's not because of his drivers, like all around. And so it bothers me. I think his price is right, put it that way, but it bothers me playing him. Whereas Bryson, I think he's trending into the right direction. And I think this is, I would have taken him last week as my number 1. I will be playing him this week as well. I think this is a venue where he can win at because he can freewheel it off the tee and kind of focus in elsewhere. But yeah, Bryson is trending way up in my stats and recent form. And so Bryson's a guy I will definitely be playing. For now, I probably won't get to just because of some of the other pieces I like. What about you?
Yeah, Bryson will be tough for me. Really, unfortunately, he's like bottom 20% in my splits right now. And I got to deep dive tomorrow and see what rounds are being counted there and how long back that goes. But it appears right now he doesn't seem to like Bent as much as he does the other ones. That's a factor. If Brooks becomes really, really chalky, then Bryson could get into my picture. But I would lean Day right now because Day loves
Day. Yeah.
Yeah, Day has the putting background on these type of greens more, and overall just a little bit better in the model. So, and then Finau is like he's in the zone where if I wind up skipping that 76 to 89 and I just go stars and scrubs, if you will, I don't mind sprinkling because I don't see him getting any love this week because there's nothing in a model that shows like greatness or coming arrive, or he's missed 3 straight cuts. So the only flips, but at 9,200, you got to have a top 20 type guy. You can't have a cut maker this week. He's not down there in 7,500 land. Really weird with this game. And to your point, I agree 100% is that normally when he's off, it's like one thing and it's not the major things. You're like, all right, if he just turns on putting or if he scores on this, Now it's like nothing's really clicking for him. So that's the kind of scary part for him. But I mean, he's always in the mix to be bet. What is your? I have two more shorter guy. I mean, not short off. Well, they are short off the tee, but Strillman. He's back up in my model, but he's horrible on length. So is he? And he's like not Furyk, but I don't know the right word. But he's just I don't know if a 20 under, like, that's what moves me off him, even though he's number 4 in my overall ranking. Do you agree?
Yeah,
or
yeah, for sure. I think it's a tough situation for him. I mean, he's going to go play his game. He's been playing great. But if you go into a golf tournament knowing this is not a golf tournament like the last few weeks where, and not necessarily last week, but before that, we had a long stretch of less than driver courses, and he's been playing great, and he's still hitting driver, and there's not much distance difference between him and his playing competitors here. And I'm not sure who he's paired with right now. But he's going to be outdriven again by like 30 yards plus by some of these guys. And so if he gets paired with a couple guys, like if he gets paired with Champ and he's got 60 yards, 50 yards in between, it could be a difficult situation for him. And again, can he go out and do it? Absolutely. But I think it's a harder route to victory for him than others.
Which is the same way, and I don't know how to say his name. Everybody's called me out on it, but the young stud at UCLA that I like a lot.
Morikawa?
Yeah, but he doesn't, like, that's one of his, he can go low kind of, but he's not real big off the tee. Like, he's not a couple weeks ago was a much better layout for him at Travelers or even the US Open where he did well. RBC is kind of a scorer type deal, but I'm flipping on there. I'm really interested to kind of see where the ownership revolves around Redmond, Hovland, Morikawa, Wolf. I think Wolf's going to go way under the radar, so I'm in on him. But those guys are all right there in the mix this week. I mean, Feinberg said it best last night. We're going back and forth a little bit on, you had to go to the mindset of kind of a fall swing type event where these guys may be overpriced or outside of the box, but when you put it in the perspective of the tournament, how far off are they, right? They can all – I mean, we saw it last week with Redmond, right? It was like, well, shit, if he shows up, yeah, he can top 5 this. It's not like you got Brooks, DJ, JT, Spieth. You don't have – it's not loaded. So now we're going to move on to the betting part of the pod. Interesting week betting. Obviously, some unusual names higher up. I have a strategy I kind of have in place this week so far. I don't get into betting too much on Mondays. I really focus on DFS. Then we get heavy betting Tuesday, Wednesday, especially in the Slack. Is there anybody short odds you like this week, 40 to 1 or less? Would you go down?
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of these guys, but it's tough to place a bet on them. If I had to pick one guy, it would be Jason Day, but I don't think 10 to 1 is worth it. So no, I would avoid this range, honestly.
The only guy, and he may turn into a Neiman armor type deal. He's way higher potential, but maybe not Neiman. I think Neiman's right there with him. But a guy I don't want to miss his first win is Hovland. If I go down to him at 28, obviously it kind of changes my card a little bit. I do want to take a question we got and kind of explain something because maybe I've done a piss poor job. There's enough people in the industry that do a great job of talking about this all the time, and I never do. I think I'm going to change my rankings up a little bit just to put it in perspective. But I had a guy last night, he goes, I didn't realize that a X and X odds means he only has 1% to win. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, I didn't know how the math was done. And I was like, well, it's fairly simple. But if you never heard it or don't understand the betting language, I can see where people don't understand is that, so if you have a 70 to 1 guy, so let's take the guy, I like to mess up his name, Morikawa, all you do is take 1 divided by 70 in a sense. And so it's stating that his odds to win the tournament are 1.43%. So if you're a percentage guy and that kind of puts things in perspective to you, that's how you do it. You just take the 1 divided by the bigger. And so if you're like you'll hear Drewby's good about talking about top 20 odds. And so if a guy's whatever 62-1 or 18-1 to win to finish top 20, then he's got 5% chance or something like that. And so, you'll hear guys say, I cut it off at 15% top 20. So that's kind of where that comes into play when people talk about their percentages, Vegas versus DK. I'm not a big Vegas versus DK guy when it comes to DraftKings because I just have a different style, but I do include it in my material and definitely want to help people understand that if they don't.
Yeah.
So Hovland's the only one I go drop down there. Middle, it's kind of like DraftKings, as I just said, I don't pay attention to it, but they correlate sometimes. But I more look at it as where do I find advantages on where guys are mispriced because of the betting market or overpriced because of the betting market. I don't like much in the 45 to 75. I kind of have Duffner and Malnati, but I don't love either one of those. I really think I'm going to take one or two favorites, so 40-1 or less, and then I'm going to drop down to the 80 and just hammer a bunch of long shots and see how the week goes.
I think that's the way to do it, man, because Phil Mickelson's the only one I would consider here, but everybody I like is outside of like that 80-1 range.
No, I agree, which I'm stacked there. So 80-1, I like Hughes. I already told you Straka's one I'm betting.
Yeah.
Nick Watney is a guy that's a bomber, in my opinion. I'm not as good as, but this kind of course can set up great for him. And then Champ, again, he's 100-1. I don't mind taking those odds and taking a chance on him. Especially had another guy ask, so I'm kind of incorporating questions here as we roll. What odd number would I do each way if I was in UK? Or I think DK may even have it now. Someone told me that last night. I would probably, and I hadn't done the math to kind of figure it all out because it's never been available, but I would say for sure anything 60-1 or better, I would each way because simple math tells me it's divided by 5. So at least I get, a 12-1 payoff on an each way, which if you have a US book, or offshore, you can still do a T5, T10. They're just not near as great bets as what the each way are over where our boys Mayo and Freiburg and everybody overseas get. So I like those 5. There's a few others I may sprinkle in there, but those are the 5 I like now before I go to my bombs. Who do you like 80-120?
There are a bunch of guys that I really like. You've mentioned some of them. But some of the guys that I'm looking at are, let's see here, Champ, you said Wolf, Burns at 110. I mean, those are a couple of Sepp Straka. And then even a guy like Cameron Tringale, I like as well. So there's like I said, there's a ton of guys in this range that I really, really like. And it's kind of one of those things where you don't want to have a list 20 people long, but there's so much value down here that it's hard not to have like 10 guys sprinkling a little bit on all of them.
Yeah, and I definitely think this week I do doubles most every week. There's a pretty significant Euro tournament. Well, this week there's a really good one with the Irish Open. I'm dipping my toes into over there. I've talked a lot with Wiley and Baroff. Adon is another guy that I've looked at his material, and so I watch a lot of it because it's on late, and so I'm normally up working late, and so I'm trying to understand the betting market there a little better. And there's some great potential for doubles. So if you really like Brooks or Matsu this week, you could, or even like you said, Reed. Was Reed the one you were on earlier?
Yeah.
One of those guys, or Dave, and 11-1. We could double them up with some Euro guys, and you get some really good odds there. Deep dark horses for me this week. You kind of meant Wolf was one. Max Homa's a guy that just watched. He's a birdie guy too. So at the Valero, I mean, the dude, obviously we paid for every birdie he made, but because we donated to his cause, but he's a guy in this format that can make a ton of birdies, couple bogeys mixed in and really make a run, especially at 7,000. He's in my top 32 right now. I like him a lot again this week. And then Jaeger's another guy that's just kind of popping 175-1. You already said Wolf. So besides any of that, anybody else are you ready to go to one and done?
Yeah, Teeter Lahiri real quick, 225. And then the one guy that
I like Teeter too. Yep.
The one guy that I keep staring at, especially here at 300, is Patton Kazire. He is horrendous at times off the tee. And I think he can, but he's really solid, like with his iron play, and he makes a lot of putts. He showed some life recently, and so I'm gonna look at him.
There's a 751 guy that I'm gonna throw some M&Ms on, and the community will get that play here tonight.
Tom Lehman, course designer.
That would make sense. No, I'm gonna sprinkle elsewhere. One and done. So
Yes.
me versus Bucks.
I'm catching up, baby.
You did Matsu last week, 137. K versus my Ryan Moore, a big fat 0. So 3.4 to 7.1. So I mean that seems far about.
Boom.
One winner. Yeah, he gets a winner, and I'm a miscut, and we're right there.
Oh, we're right there, baby.
So you had the best pick last week. You get to go first. Who is your pick for one and done?
Jason Day is going to be my pick this week. My number 2 squad has Bryson DeChambeau.
And your number 2 is higher, right?
Yeah, boy.
So
still not in the money though, but it's higher.
We don't have the Feinberg rule here, so you're actually not going to catch up to me at all this week because Jason Day is my pick as well.
You can't do that.
I can because I've saved him for this one. My number 2, which is actually my best, I'm going Neiman. And my number 3, I've already locked in, and I'm going Hovland. So if you're wanting options there, it's Day, Neiman, Hovland, and I never JB will tell you I never lock my one and dones in, other than the one we have to commit tonight early. But my 3 are done. So those will be my 3. If you want to tank up on me, go ahead. Don't mind it. I got a little bit of a chance. My second one's in the top 150, I think.
Yeah.
So I like those 3. That's what I'm going with. If they suck, JB, I don't know if you can chime in. Are we in the last week of the segment?
He doesn't know.
Okay, so that
this week is. Oh wow! First week of segment 4.
Okay, so that I don't know if that changes my second and third. I'll update that, but I thought it was
change your first. It should definitely change your first.
Day is my pick, but I'll probably stick with Neiman and Hovland. But those I reserve the right to change. The first one I lock in, we don't change. But if you are starting over and you've been saving some bullets, if you got Brooks, like you play him, right? Matsu, you play him. This is where you go all in because it's last segment. Everybody starts over. If you're in the running for the big money, again, it's Katie bar the door, and Bucks loves that shit. It's time to go.
Swear jar.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, damn it.
Jar.
You're not saving anything now. But I thought it was the last week, so that's why I was going Hovland, Neiman, just kind of throw a dart. But oh well, I'll stick with them probably. Bucks, final thoughts for the night before we wrap it up from you. What do you got?
Definitely hit us up in the E9 because as we have people going out to the course and getting reports of how it's really going to be playing, because right now it's all speculation. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're likely lying because you got to be there to check it out. And no guys have really been practicing on the course. We know what the Champions Tour played like. The PGA Tour is likely going to be a little bit more difficult. It's playing longer. Par 71, only 3 par 5s this week, and they're all unreachable for the most part. And so really stay in tune with our Slack, Twitter, E9, make sure we get the most up-to-date thing because just like last week, the whole player pool could shift a little bit. And so outside of that, man, enjoy the week. It's a new tournament. It's going to, and they're locked in for a few years. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. I agree. There's a lot that can change. We don't get these kind of weeks. We can't get pot committed on Mondays. We preach that in the Slack, everything we talk about, just because there's so many things that can kind of change our opinion. We'll hear people on the course. We'll hear it's just the unknown and the weather, it could get worse and now it becomes wet. They can't mow. I mean, anything could change it. So it's always important to kind of read. We have tons of content out there to updating you daily. My final thoughts tonight, first of all, I want to wish Ruby and Nate, who are partners with the company, the best of luck in their future endeavors, both moving on from Gup's Corner. A lot of potential with both of them. I hope they do well. Hopefully we can maintain a communication relationship there. would help them out any way they need. Appreciate their efforts in the community. Both did a tremendous job for GC, and I wish them well. Last part came to me this morning. I was at the gym, went to summer workouts so I could have more free time in the evening for my family. I was listening to a wrestling podcast, and it was Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mark Henry. And I tweeted it this morning to tell people they can listen to this, because Mark Henry, if you don't know, he's a big 6'4", 350-pound Olympian type, former Olympic weightlifter champion of the world, like not just and obviously got on with the WWE, did great. And I saw him in that light I've watched WWE since I was a baby in diapers. And so I'm an addict no matter what. And I've watched all professional wrestling. So I'm excited about AEW. Feinberg and I are going to have a pod here once we get through these holidays. Their holiday was today. Ours is Thursday. So we're going to have a pod over AEW, WWE. It's going to be great. But I never knew his background. And I'm listening to the pod, and he had this one statement at the end. He choked up and he paused, and you could tell. And Stone Cold did a great job of just letting him go. Very, 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 very inspirational podcast, and he's very well spoken. I love him. And he has a pod every day, which I knew he was doing one. I didn't know it was every day, but I'll be a big fan of that. But and this kind of sums up everything that happened last night with the tweets. And I know we had some haters out there, and we had people envious of the screenshots and talking shit on us, and people pissed because they lost money because this one community had Redmond, and it's never going to pay for their subscriber fee. I just heard it all, and I made a promise to my team and my wife, and most importantly my wife, that from last week forward I'm not going to get caught up in the negativity in the world, because we have way too much good going on in Gov's Corner to worry about it. There's going to be haters. There's going to be envious people. It's going to happen. That's life. If you're successful, you're going to have that. I respect people, and if they have an honest opinion to share with me, I'll respect it. We had a theft, plagiarism on our site. I'm now, I wouldn't say friends, but the guy that his site had a person that did it, a very mutual respect for him, because we talked it out. We did the due diligence on both sides. He admitted guilt on their side, and we moved on. And that's what it's all about. But, it's very humbling to have a community win $300,000 in an attorney. And I don't care who you are, and we don't make a lot of money at this. That's going to pay for a lot of subscriptions, regardless who they are. And so one of the reasons we set our model up the way we did is so that no one ever had to worry about tout fees and am I covering my investment? I don't think we have over 90-something% retention rate right now. It's because no one's here because of the money, and not even us. If I was here because of the money, I wouldn't fucking release a Doc Redman who is going to be 0% owned to 1,500 people to let him go play it and literally beat me in my own game, right? That's stupid by me. But that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm about. And Mark Henry says this at the end of his pod. It's around the 37-minute left mark. I don't know how far that is in the pod, but he goes, a lot of people in power hide knowledge. Knowledge is the key to unlocking anything that is remotely possible for human, regardless of color, creed, religion, sexual orientation. Knowledge and teaching is the key. He, being Vince McMahon, didn't have to teach me the understanding of pro wrestling, and he did. I provide for my family based on him, being Vince. I was loyal because he's the one that got me into wrestling, and he got me where I'm going. And it just is so powerful because it's what I believe in. I do what I do to teach people, to give them knowledge. This is in my real career and in this, to make them successful, because I've been blessed. I worked my ass off, don't get me wrong, but I've been blessed. And so I wanted to give others a chance. Now, there's times I've come off wrong in the past, and I've admitted to it. I've admitted to my partners when I was wrong. I'm not ashamed of that. But way more times than wrong, I am more right in the sense of what I'm trying to accomplish with this. And 4 years ago when I started it, and that's what we're about. When he wrote that, when I listened to it this morning, it was God talking to me saying that is what you got to communicate today. and believe in. And it's not an easy time right now. It's never easy separating from people you've been partners with. There was no issues with them. I love both of them. It was a business decision. It was time to move on. And so we made it. But for the haters out there, when you realize what's more important in your life and what giving knowledge to others does, the better off you'll be. And if you think for 1 second that we're not where we're at right now because we weren't willing to do that, you're fooling yourself. But that's by it, and I have the partners that'll stand by it. And I really don't care about the haters anymore. As Buck said, join us Wednesday night, 9:00, same time only. This week only, you can use the code ROCKET through the Open and the Wyndham, which is the first round. I think it's the first round or the last of the regular season before the FedEx. So 5 tournaments in total. We're getting to the ends of PGA. But I had someone ask this, great point. I try to put it in the content, but I guess we don't do a good enough job. That's on me. We're 365. So if you buy today, it's through July 1st, 2020. So there is no season or end. We cover
And
football.
the code is ROCKET.
Rocket. Yep. Rocket for the membership and last chance for the t-shirts. 10% off, free shipping on the shirts with last chance. We have football. We have college football. We have a meeting this week to figure out our plans for the daily sports. As we're growing, everybody's asking for them. So we're working on that, but we for sure have college football, NFL football, betting for both. The fall swing of golf will be heavily covered with a special educational series put on by me and Bucks that we're going to walk you through the fall swing season. A little bit behind the curtains. We're going to show you a little bit more. It's going to be awesome. I promise you, if you try it for a month and you get in the Slack and you see the family and the community and how we have each other's back, you won't regret it. That's not to sell memberships. It's because I want as many people in there enjoying the successes as are now. Lastly, I thank my wife because without her, I wouldn't be here today. She means the world to me. She's been through a lot for me. And, she's due that, and I should do it more often. But this has been a hard weekend for me, and she was there. So I thank you, Rachel, and we'll see you Wednesday night.